Stephanie KR from Auburn, Maine.
Hey all. Thanks, Michael. Nice job navigating the multiple Zoomers. I'm an alcoholic and my name is Stephanie. My sobriety date is November 14th, 1992. So I just last year, right? A couple months ago, celebrated 28 years. And that's insane. And I have done that clearly by the grace of God. And I also need to let you know that despite the fact that I now am sober 3 times as long as I drank, and more than half my life, I am still not in danger of getting well anytime soon, right? Because what I have is I have alcoholism, not alcoholism. And I have underlying causes and conditions that make alcohol but a symptom, right? I can use boys, I can use booze, I can use drugs, I can use Oreos, I can use working out, I can use sponsorship. I can use anything in order to avoid me, in order to try to avoid my feelings. And I've learned that in Alcoholics Anonymous. I know this is a beginner's meeting. So what the book tells us to do is that we share in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And in particular, what we're supposed to do is talk about how we develop our relationship with God, right? How do we come to know and believe in God and trust in God, right? Because you get sober and everybody's all just like, oh, let it go. What does that even mean? Let it go? How do you do that? When you are crazy obsessed about something and you are checking your phone and looking at those little dots and can't think about anything else and wandering around the kitchen wanting to punch someone in the throat, how do you just let it go, right? And then you go to a meeting and everybody's all like, I'm so grateful to be sober. I'm like, I want to dig your eyes out with a spoon. Yeah, so it's been sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly for this girl over here. And I would love to tell you that now that I'm 28 years sober, I just meditate and I levitate and I am infused with God and God radiates out of me. And to a certain degree, Miguel's laughing at me, about to be triple digits, dude. And to a certain degree, those things are true, right? I have a God in me that is absolutely positively amazing. And I'll tell you about her in a little while. And that God shines through me because of Alcoholics Anonymous. I know that without a doubt. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I said a prayer this morning and just before I spoke, and now we'll leave it up to God. So, like I said, my sobriety date is November 14th, 1992, but alcohol affected me long before I ever started drinking, right? I don't know about you all. Grew up in an alcoholic home. My dad was the crazy drunk. My mother was the untreated Al-Anon. He got drunk and passed out. She threw stuff at him. This is what I thought love was, and legit, even when I got older and I was in relationships, if I had a dude who was crazy, nuts, violently, physically destroying property because he was so mad at me, I thought that was seriously an indication of how much he loved me. That is twisted, right? But somehow, if I could get him that worked up, obviously he must care about me. If you are nodding to that, if you are laughing and I see you, then we need to talk because ixnay on the shit nay. So my dad was a drunk and my mom was untreated Al-Anon, and I grew up in this insanity and I didn't know about alcohol. I didn't understand it. But my dad would say, Amy, I have to go to the store. And my mother, untreated Al-Anon, didn't understand the disease, would say, take Stephanie with you, right? Because she thought if I went with him, then like a normal adult, he would go to the store and come home, right? Because sorry about this. What I have to go to the store means for an alcoholic is I'm going to get wasted and I may or may not be home in the next couple days, right? And so my mom would be like, take Stephanie with you. And I was 10 or 11 years old. And so we would go and he would take me because she told him to. And we would end up down the Irish American or the Vets, the KSC, the CC, and like those places before I ever started drinking. Those places were my places, and those are my people. Like, you all are my people. And we would walk into those bars and they were like smoky and the floor is sticky and it smells a little like vomit, but it's like, oh yes, that's where I am. Like, that's where I just feel comfortable. That is legit, even today, where I feel comfortable. Like, if I walk into a sketchy place where they're frisking people for weapons, I'm like, I know how to do this. I can do this. When I have to go to my job, I'm a professor. When I have to go to my job and I'm standing in a lecture hall in front of all of my students, I do not feel okay, right? I am like imposter syndrome. Like, they're going to figure out who I am. They're going to know that my being here is a big computer error, and they're going to come take me out and be like, get out of here, you crack whore, right? But that doesn't really happen. So I would end up down in the clubs with my dad, and he would drink, and then we would go home, and when we would get home, we would walk in, our house was on the second floor. My dad was a photographer, and would walk into the house, and my mother would be at the top of the stairs. She'd come flying around the top of the stairs, and the look, right? She'd look like she wanted to kill him, and then her face would just drop, and she would be disgusted, and she would start throwing his stuff down the stairs. Richard, I'm not doing this anymore, and I can't believe you, and I deserve better, and blah, 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 blah. Freaking out, right? My dad, meanwhile, is at the bottom of the stairs, wasted, and he's like folding his clothes. I'm helping him fold the clothes. I'm laughing, right? I'm like cracked out on Coke or like Shirley Temples or something, and I'm like, not cocaine, just like Coca-Cola. I'm like folding the clothes. I'm helping him. And he's like, Amy, calm down, Amy. And at that moment, like, I laugh about it now, and I like to tell a lot of funny stories because I believe that laughter heals us. And I also like to tell these stories to like you all because you actually laugh. I've tried to tell some of these stories to my work colleagues who are social drinkers. They like seriously don't think it's funny when I piss myself and I'm in the gutter. You all get it. Like, they just look at me like, and like sometimes they'll pat me on the shoulder, just like, are you okay? It's like, yeah, you don't get it. It's like, I just puked on him. It was fine. He called back. But so we would be sitting there, and I looked around, and what I saw, right, because alcohol prevents me from seeing the truth, right? I am deadly earnest about the disease of alcohol and the fact that it will kill you, right? Or it will kill me. And alcohol prevents me from seeing the truth. And so what I saw a woman who was an absolute shrew. She was just no good. She was no fun. She was a wet blanket. And I saw a guy who was just trying to have fun, right? That's what alcohol showed me. That's what I could see. What alcohol prevented me from seeing, because I have a magical mind when it comes to alcohol. I have alkalogic, right? But I have this magical mind because what I couldn't see was that my dad had just driven drunk with me in the car, and he could have killed us both. Didn't even see it, right? I didn't see that my dad had just drank and gambled away the mortgage again, right? Didn't even see it. And I certainly didn't see or understand at all that my father was incapable of being there for my mother physically or emotionally. I didn't even know what that meant. Didn't even know what it meant, right? I had no idea. But what I knew was she screamed a lot, and he gave me rolls of quarters so that I could play pinball. So like, he was definitely way cooler. And that's like how I live my life, right? I live my life because I started drinking when I was in like, summer after 6th grade, 7th grade. I was a child. And like, once I start drinking, I stopped developing emotionally. And so I don't have any ways to make emotionally mature decisions. I don't have any emotional intelligence. What I got is I want to roll of quarters. When I see something shiny, I'm like, oh, shiny. Can I have it? Like, that's legit how I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm just like, that's how I am. And when I was drinking, and I'm sure that you all can identify, I was really good at like always being on the hustle, right? Like, I can walk into a room. I know exactly who I need to see. I know exactly who I need to be. I know exactly what I need to say in order to get exactly what I need, and then to get you the hell away from me once I'm done with you. I know. I am so good at the hustle. And the problem is I have absolutely no idea how to survive. None. And I would love to tell you that, in the first 90 days, I somehow miraculously figured all this out. I didn't. I was several years sober when a sponsor asked me, honey, what brings you joy? And I had no idea. Because for me, what it always is, oh my God, I want the doggy. What it always is, I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I don't care. Where do you want to go? Right? And I would be whoever it was I thought you wanted me to be. It wasn't even who you told me you want me to be, right? You could tell me this is what I need in a relationship. I don't pay attention to that. I pay attention to what I think you need and want, right? Alkalogic, man, because my brain prevents me from seeing the truth. I fall in love with the fantasy. I fall in love with potential as opposed to what reality is showing me and telling me. And so when my sponsor said to me, what brings you joy? I'm like, I had no answer. I had no answer. And I was always just whoever I thought you needed me to be. If I was dating a biker, I would buy some leather pants. If I was dating someone who was athletic, well, suddenly I was like sporty and I had a headband. Like I would be whatever I thought would make you happy. Because just like my drinking, right? Like I found myself drunk. I also would find myself in relationships, right? I would find myself in a relationship. And rather than ask, is this what I want? Is this a good partner for me? My question always was, how do I make this work? How do I make this work? And it was the same with the booze, right? How do I make this work? Not, is this alcohol a problem that I need to set aside, but how do I make it work? I went to a bar one time and I brought a loaf of Wonder Bread because I believed that if I ate a piece of white bread in between all the shots I was taking, that somehow the white bread would absorb the bad alcohol and I would get drunk without being the sloppy, violent mess that I had grown to be. Like, social drinkers don't understand that. And I see some of you making faces that you would have either A, been right there eating Wonder Bread with me, or B, can understand the alkalogic in that. And that's why you all are my people. So anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about, but so that was the craziness that I grew up in, right? And so then my mother finds Al-Anon. Oh my God. My mother finds Al-Anon. And Al-Anon is a beautiful, beautiful program for people who try to love alcoholics. And I have gone to Al-Anon since I got sober. I believe that if we're sponsoring, Al-Anon is a wonderful place to be because you know what we can't do? Fix anyone else. You know what we can't do? Take responsibility for anyone else. But anyway, so my mother finds Al-Anon at some juncture. And so she and all the little neighborhood mothers also found Al-Anon. Like all our dads were drunks. I'm Irish. I grew up in Boston. Like we're all alcoholic. Like that's what we do. So, so she found Al-Anon and all our friends' moms found Al-Anon too. And so then they went to an Al-Anon convention and they left us home with the drunk dads. And so me and this girl, Sharon, we're going to find out what this drunk thing was all about, what this booze was all about. Now, I had already drank before this. I had drank when I was in 7th grade, the summer after 7th grade, on the tracks by Ginn Field with the boys from Woburn while smoking a pack of Marlboro Reds, right? I had also, not coincidentally, been sexually assaulted the first time I ever drank, right? Now, there is no excuse for sexual assault. I certainly I did not deserve it, etc. But I continued from that day forward to do things that put myself in danger, that put me in dangerous situations all the time. So mom goes away. Dad says, here's $25. Don't tell your mother. Be home by Sunday. I say, make it 50 and we'll call it good. And he's like, whatever. And so me and Sharon go and we're going to get drunk. So like I said, I'm Irish. I'm Catholic. We have a couple rules. You don't talk about your feelings. You don't get caught, you don't get pregnant, and you don't talk about it. Like those are our big rules in life. So we were going to get drunk, but we couldn't get caught. So we took out a blender and we went to her parents' liquor cabinet. And they had, do you remember those? You all are very young, but they used to have these liquor cabinets that were like fake glass with these little X's, crosses on them. And they would be like lighted and it was very fancy. And they had all these beautiful bottles in there. So we open up this liquor cabinet and we pour like just a shot of everything because you can't get caught. So we're doing like a shot of vodka, a shot of gin, all the schnapps. I can remember the lime liqueur like going down the side of the blender because it's thick. Oh my God. I'm sure we added all the mixers because we didn't know what was booze and what wasn't booze. And so you're just throwing it in there. And then we added 2 scoops of Nestle's Quick, which is like the most disgusting thing ever. When I tell this story, I can feel the grit in my teeth because Nestle's Quick doesn't actually dissolve in alcohol, right? So it was like this brown liquid with this brown powder on top. It was disgusting. But here's the thing, and this is why you're my people and I love Alcoholics Anonymous. You'd drink it too, right? You know you would. So I drank it. And what happened for me that night, or at least as I remember it now, and I believe real alcoholics like me, we have like an alcohol chakra that's like right at the core of my being. And when just enough booze hits my alcohol chakra, it's like 2.5 drinks, 2.5 drinks in. And suddenly, like, I feel it and it radiates out. And I can suddenly stand taller. My rib cage expands. I am beautiful. I am so graceful. It's ridiculous. I am charming and funny. You want to be with me or you want to be me. It doesn't matter. Like, I am just all that in a bag of Doritos, right? When I have had 2.5 drinks. The problem is, and that's what happened for me the night that I drank that Blenda, right? That thing got activated. And man, I was chasing that. I chased that 2.5 drink alcohol chakra amazingness for years, for 8 years, until I finally got sober, right? But my problem is, and what I learned in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, is that when I drink, because I have this phenomenon of craving, right? A craving, it doesn't mean like I want it, right? The phenomenon of craving, as they talk about in the big book, what it means is that once I take alcohol into my body in any form whatsoever, I naturally have the compulsion for more. And I know that to be true in my life, right? Because I know once I start drinking, maybe I'll go home after a few. Probably not. I could end up in New Jersey. It happened before, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Once I start, I'm not going to stop. I'm that girl who, when I'm drinking, I will puke in order to make room for more alcohol. That evidently is not what social drinkers do, right? I am that girl who, at the end of the night, I go around, I take all the cigarette butts out of the drinks, and I drink those drinks. Like, I got to keep it real, and I can't tell you that I was a classy drinker because I drank those drinks, like, for real. Like, So I drank that. But the problem is, and what the book tells me, is that once I develop that phenomenon of craving, then I'm not going to stop. And I have no control because I have this mind. I have this mind that has been affected by the disease of alcoholism. And so when I am under the effect of the disease of alcoholism, not only when I'm drinking, because Lordy knows I can be heavily affected, clean and sober, right? But if I have this mind that somehow forgets. I think, oh, well, this time will be different. I'll bring a loaf of white bread with me to the bar. Oh, as long as I put whiskey in my milk, it'll be okay, right? Whatever it is, I think myself into the drink. And then, of course, what happens? We know Stephanie drinks the trashy drinks. I'm not the classy one. I am definitely that girl that I will steal your wallet. I will help you look for it. And I will bang out your boyfriend in the bathroom while we're looking. Because if you can't hold on to it, it's mine. And I am going to do whatever it takes to absolutely numb out everything I feel and try to get a sense of power. And for me, for a long time, my heart was in my vagina. I usually don't say that in a mixed meeting, but like legit. It was the way that I was. I thought that I could use men and I could use alcohol to try to feel better. And what I didn't realize was the power was in me. The power is God, and God, fundamental to every man, woman, and child, is the idea of God. Deep down within me, that is where she can be found in the final analysis, right? In me. We'll get to that in a hot minute. So anyway, I drink this blender full of goodness and I'm off and running. And so then, it goes the way that it goes. And I'm not going to belabor it because I've already kind of talked a long time about it. But it gets worse. My standards get lower. The people I'm hanging out with go down. And it's not like they were a bad influence. I absolutely do not blame anyone but myself. I was the princess of it all, right? I am certainly not a victim, although if you had heard me talk about it, you'd think I was. And so my life got worse. It ended up when I was a junior in high school, my high school guidance counselor told me that I wasn't college material. Can't say I blame her. I didn't go to school very much. And I thought I spoke Spanish, tripping on acid, much better than sober. And so she told me that I should try to find a good job and a nice husband, or a nice husband and a good job, or something like this. So when I graduated, I got a job in a law firm because I figured attorneys make a lot of money, and that's what a good husband is. See, no maturity, no ability to make any type of emotional decision or know what I wanted. Because what I did was I based what I thought I wanted on what you all seemed to value. I compared my insides to your outsides, and I lost every time. Every time. Because what I saw people navigating the world with seeming surety and confidence, and I felt like a hot mess, right? I remember one time I was on a date. I forgot about this. I was on a date with this dude from the law firm, right? We're driving a Porsche. He's driving a Porsche. He picks me up for dinner. I am a hot mess. Like, showering is getting a little optional at this juncture in my drinking, right? But I'm in the car and my magic mind starts. And I think to myself, oh my God, he's an attorney. I barely graduated from high school. Oh my God, look at how fat my thighs are. Oh my God, what am I going to talk about? Where are we going to go? I'm not even going to know what fork to use. I'm certainly not classy enough for him. He doesn't even know who I am. He's never going to like me. He's going to cheat on me. I'm probably going to end up pregnant. And I jumped out of the car. Like, just jumped out of the car. Like at a stoplight, right? And went to the bar and drank with my friends because that's what I do. That dude called back. Like, we tried it again. But he's like, well, maybe lunch would be better. I'm like, dude, I am a dumpster fire. Like, I am a hot mess walking at you. Like, anyway. So my drinking was bad. I was crazy. And I like to laugh about it because I believe that laughter heals. But you all know the heartbreak of addiction. And you know the heartbreak of wanting to show up and being incapable. You know the heartbreak of, like, I didn't want to sleep with my friends' boyfriends. Like, I would accidentally sleep with people. How do you accidentally sleep with? That sounds like something on Jerry Springer, right? But like, legit, I was not in control of my own body, actions, minds, or attitudes, except when I woke up the next morning and filled with remorse, horror, hopelessness, and self-loathing. I hated myself. And when I would come home at night, my mother would come whipping around those stairs, just like she had with my dad. And she'd look down there with the dagger eyes, and she'd say, Stephanie, when are you going to do something with your life? Stephanie, when are you going to get a job? Stephanie, what are you doing? Stephanie, you've wasted your potential. And I thought my mother hated me, and I hated my mother. One time when I was drinking, I hit my mother, physically hit my mother. That's what booze did to me. I hit my mother because I thought she hated me, because alcohol prevented me from seeing the truth. And the truth was that my mother was afraid that her 22-year-old daughter was going to die because I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And that's how my drinking went. I was selfish, I was self-centered, and I was oblivious because I was too busy hustling to stop and think. I couldn't stop and think because I couldn't sit with my brain. For a long time into recovery, I couldn't sit with my brain. And I believe that God keeps us safe, and God shows us what we're ready to see when we're ready to see it, you know? So at the end of my drinking, I'm drinking at a bar in Chelsea, Massachusetts. It's a super classy place. They have bars on the windows. They're coming around every couple hours to frisk us for weapons. I'm in there, my little Zeke Havarici matching denim outfit, sporting a side pony, thinking I'm all that. Just no place for a young woman to be. And if you had called me a young woman, I would have punched you in the face. If you had called me a lady, I would have told you exactly where you could put that, right? Because I was tough. And I didn't need you, and I would show you, and I could do whatever I want, whenever I want, and that's how I like it. And inside, all I wanted was someone to stay. All I wanted was for someone to hug me and love me and tell me it'll be okay. You know, that was it. That was it. And I couldn't get that. And if I couldn't get that, then I was going to punch you in the face, because violence was always an answer for me. So I'm drinking at that bar in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and I meet this dude named Joe. Oh my God, poor Joe. I met this guy named Joe, right? And Joe and I had that 2.5 drink eye contact, you know, when I knew he was my soulmate from across the room. He didn't know that we were dating for several weeks before we were actually dating, but I quickly caught him up and got him on board. Some people call it stalking. I call it caring. I definitely have codependent issues. meaning I have no ability to stop myself and have you be your own individual entity, right? When I go on a date, I'm bringing my toothbrush in case he's a keeper. You got to get in on it while the getting's good, right? Like, no, none of these things are true. But alcohol made me believe those things. Alcohol had me believing that there was a limited amount. There was a limited amount, certainly, of booze and drugs, but there was also a limited amount of love and affection and success and beauty. And so if someone walked in, like Megan's hair looks fabulous tonight, right? So if Megan walked into the meeting and her hair looked fabulous, somehow that makes my hair look less fabulous, or somehow that makes me less pretty, because in my mind, it was a limited amount. And so if you loved someone else, right? Like I was brutal with girlfriends, like platonic friends, in terms of like, if I had girlfriends who were going out to lunch without me, oh, like the magic mind was on fire. And it's like, what's going on? I know what they're up to. Rah! Like crazy train. Because I believed alcohol taught me the lie. I bought into the lie that there was a limited amount and I needed to get mine. But what the book tells me, this magical book, tells me that what I have found is an unlimited load, unlimited. God is never ending and God is limitless. I have an unlimited load of abundance, of success, of beauty, of joy, of happiness, of laughter, of love, of affection, of anything I might think I want or need, as long as I insist on giving away all of the profits, all of them. Right? This book is really clear about its language, and I love the language in this book. I actually, ironically enough, ended up, once I got sober, I started taking classes because I was good at it, and I'm a people pleaser, and I'd be like, look, I got an A, and my sponsor would be like, good, do it again. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up getting a PhD, and ironically, I got a PhD in argument as I was getting sober. So the book is telling me to resign from the debating society, and I'm like, no way, I got a PhD in that. I'm going to tell you what's up. Right? But the language in this book is really good. And the language in this book is really deliberate, and it's on purpose, right? The fact that God is in me, the fact that half measures avail us nothing. Half measures don't avail half. Right now, I'd be good with half. Thank you very much. I really would. It tells me that I have to be willing to be inconvenienced. And what it tells me is that work with another alcoholic will surely save the day. Nowhere in this book does it say to me, oh, go sit and think about yourself. Meditate on your troubles for a while, young lady. It doesn't say that. What it says is that I need to quiet the disturbance. I can write about it. I need to call someone at once, quiet the disturbance, and then what? Go to therapy? Like think about my inner child? No, I need to turn my attention to another alcoholic. Now, that's not to say that if you need therapy, you shouldn't get it, because God knows I've had a lot of outside help. We avail ourselves to those trained professionals because I got some trauma, and most of us do. And what that means is I need extra help because Alcoholics Anonymous can't deal with my trauma. But so anyway, so poor Joe, right? We had the 2-drink eye contact, and Joe was going to be mine. And then what happened was, what always happens is, I am incapable of being in a relationship because I blow it up, right? But I don't know what to do, and I can't understand why. And so what I do is I project it onto you. I blame everything on you, right? All my friends were all sluts. Well, that's because I was a little promiscuous, right? All my boyfriends didn't appreciate me for the princess I was, like nobody was ever good enough. And I would put it on you. And so I told Joe, poor Joe. I'm like, dude, you are an alcoholic and you need to get help or I'm going to break up with you. And you know what Joe said? He's like, see ya, psycho, right? Like he was trying to have me gone. Like we drank at that little bar in Chelsea, Massachusetts. It was like literally as big as my living room there. And he would try to hide in the bar when he would see me coming. He'd be like, oh my God, she's here. And he'd try to hide because I was nuts. So, but like I've mentioned before, I get into super healthy relationships, or I used to get into super healthy relationships. And so eventually Joe called and he said those words, those words, baby, I can't live without you. And that is like a fifth of vodka chilled in the freezer. Oh my God, baby, I can't live without you. I'm like, I know, baby. I know. Like being right, maybe it's an issue. I know, baby. You come on home and I'll make it okay. Control just a little, right? And so honest to God, and I joke about it now, but it's also really, 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 really sad Because at that point, I honest to God believed that I needed Joe to get sober to treat me the way I deserved to be treated so that I could be happy. I didn't understand that I had anything to do with my own happiness. I didn't understand that I could do that. I didn't think I could. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. And I didn't think I was good enough to do it. Because all my life, what I had done was I had great intentions on showing up and being there and being a good person and making grand gestures. All my life, I wanted to be that person. And all my life, I continued to disappoint, disgust, and not show up and burn those relationships down. And so when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous with Joe, like I was that girl that you see in meetings. I was draped all over him with my hand in his crotch, right? He didn't have a job or a car or very many teeth, but he was mine. And you women better back off because I know how you get. Poor Joe. And I was there. And when they came around, they came to me and I was like, I'm Stephanie. I'm here for support. I'm Stephanie and I'm here for support. I probably reeked of booze. I was such a mess. Incapable of sitting still, smoking, drinking coffee, like just a mess. But I'm Stephanie and I'm here for support, oblivious. And I believe, without a doubt, that was my God keeping me safe. I also believe that God brought me in here with Joe because I never would have had the courage to come in here on my own. When I watch people come into Alcoholics Anonymous on their own and pick up a white chip, I am blown away because I never would have done it. I never would have done it. I never would have thought I was worth it. And I never would have thought I could go through with it. But my God is amazing because my God knew that if I came for a boy, there's nothing I won't do for a boy, right? There's nothing I won't do. I was reading that big book. I'm highlighting it. I'm telling him, sweetheart, he should be your sponsor. You've got that same character defect. Oh, honey, here are the list of things you owe me amends for, right? Like I'm all about his sobriety. But I was reading that book. And then for me, what happened was, I only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to be fast. But what happened for me was soon after, I went to a party and I was Stephanie, I'm not drinking because I'm also a little bit of a martyr, right? I'm wicked self-righteous. And so I was not drinking to show Joe how easy it was to do. So I went into this party and I'm like, I'm Stephanie, I'm not drinking. I'm Stephanie, I'm not drinking. And they're either like, whatever or good. And then this guy, Jimmy, said to me, do you want a screwdriver? And I had been listening in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous because I had been listening for Joe so that I could get what I deserved, damn it. And I had been looking at the women in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't really like you all. You all were showering and matching and hugging each other and sitting together. And I didn't understand, like sometimes I mess with girls, right? I could understand that, but I didn't understand what was really going on with you all. Like these female friendships, no, thank you very much. And women were nice to me. And I had thought to myself, because I was very judgmental and I was very self-will run riot. I was very much all about Stephanie at this point. And I thought, well, if I was ever that bad, I would get sober too. And if I ever did that, if I was ever that big of a skank, I would certainly get sober too, right? Oblivious. God prevented me from seeing the truth. Alcohol prevented me from seeing the truth. So, and so what happened was basically, that night that I went out, that I drank that drink, I did a whole bunch of the things that I had heard women in Alcoholics Anonymous say that they had done, things that I swore I would never do, things that I thought I was too good to do. Because my God, she's amazing. She is amazing, but she will kick me out at my knees if that's what I need. She will. Sometimes we need a little tough love. And that comes from my God. And so that night I did a whole bunch of the things that I swore I would never do, lines I said I would never cross. And I did those things. And what that told me was that I got no business being anywhere around alcohol if I am not spiritually fit. I am this far away from destroying my life. But also that I'm no better than anyone. I was probably 9 months sober when I heard a woman tell my story. And I got sober when I was 23. And she talked about when she was like in her early 20s and what it was like for her. And I was like, yeah. And then that woman kept drinking. That woman kept drinking for another 10 or 15 years. And she kept going and going and going. And she ended up in her apartment with the shades drawn, afraid to go out of her house, pissing herself, drinking and doing drugs. And I know without a doubt that could be me. I've heard fifth steps from women who have put pillows over the faces of their babies just to try to get them to stop crying. And that could be me. The minute I think that any of those heinous things that we do under the influence of drugs and alcohol cannot be me is the minute I am running towards that drink. Because alcohol will destroy and take everything from me. I have no doubt about it. And so that night, I did a whole bunch of the things that I swore I would never do. And I came out of a blackout on the payphone with my mother who I hated, my mother who I had hit, my mother who never didn't have something to say about me, who never wasn't the whole, when are you going to do something with your life? Yeah. You need me to bail you out again, Stephanie? Yeah. That night that I called my mother, God was there. God was there. Because that night when I called my mother, all she said was, don't drive, come home, and it'll be okay. Now, if you meet my mother, which you may, she speaks at Al-Anon. She's been in Al-Anon for like 45 years. She speaks at conventions all the time. She and I were going to speak. She was the Al-Anon speaker, and I was the AA speaker at a conference last April that got canceled because of the COVID. I was devastated. I think that would have been a shit show. I think it would have been hysterical. But God was there because that woman has never not had something to say, even since. Even every time I call it. Well, Stephanie, have you? Yeah, Ma, I have. Like I'm a 50-year-old woman at this juncture. Leave me alone. But that night she didn't say anything. And God was there because God knew. I believe that night I was at that jumping off point. I believe that I would be dead if she had said one thing. I was looking for it. When you're just looking for it, it's like, give me one excuse and I'm done. Checking out. And I was already drinking to die. But I just need an excuse. And so I got home and eventually I started coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. And obviously Alcoholics Anonymous has saved my life. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a life that's second to none. And I am not unique. And I am not a poster child for AA. And I am nothing special. I am nothing special. I mean, I am wonderful and unique and a child of God and blah, blah, blah. But it's there for everyone. And because we're such clever little alcoholics, God had the good idea to put it in a book and to number the steps 1 through 12. There is no 13, I've discovered, but 1 through 12, right, in order. And so first I have to come to believe that I'm powerless over alcohol and that my life was unmanageable. Check. Have you been listening? So we got that. Come to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. My mother was a nun. I grew up Catholic. I don't know how I feel about this. My God had a clipboard and was checking things off, and I was not on the winning side of the ledger. But then what you all said to me and what this book says to me is, why don't you choose your own conception of God? What? My own conception of God, whatever I want. G-O-D at first was a group of drunks. It was you all. I had no idea how you were doing it, but you were staying sober and smiling, which was way better than I could do. So for a long time, I was a meeting makers make it. You know what meeting makers make it? They make it to meetings. The fellowship is phenomenal. I got to give this plug. It's a newcomers meeting. The fellowship is, I believe, divinely inspired and empowered in order to keep us safe for a limited amount of time. And in that limited amount of time, we then must find someone who has what we want, be willing to do what they do, go through those 12 steps, take someone else through them, and have a spiritual experience. When we go through the program, which is different than the fellowship, when we go through the program, we have a design for living that works in rough going. We have a way of life that is second to none, that is abundance and beauty and incredible. I have been cured of a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And so I had to come to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And so for a while, it was G-O-D, a group of drunks, and G-O-D, good orderly direction. Y'all told me to find someone who had what I wanted and be willing to do what they do. And so I found a woman. She had a Mercedes, a super hot husband, and really nice clothes, which was exactly what I wanted. And so I asked her to be my sponsor. Again, God was there because that woman had a program and that woman gave me a big buck. And at first I was the chip girl in my home group. And so cute little boys and sometimes cute little girls would come up and they'd go to get their chips and they'd get their 60-day chip or whatever, or their 30-day chip. And of course, by now I'm 4 or 5 months sober. And so I am like practically an old timer. And so I would give them their little chip, and I'd give them a hug, and I'd also give them my phone number in case they wanted to talk about the program or in case they needed a ride to a meeting, right? And absolutely, positively, without a doubt, I was totally being of service in Alcoholics Anonymous in ways that are absolutely inappropriate. But again, God was there because I had that sponsor who took away that job. She made me be the coffee maker, took away that job, and also told me that I could serially date in AA because I was losing interest in selfish things and gaining interest in my AA fellows, like one fellow at a time. And that was fine as long as I didn't put anything before my sobriety, right? I was 23 years old. What's the likelihood that I'm not going to date, right? I had never been single. I didn't even realize this till I was several years sober. I had never even been without a backup. Right. And you know, if you're a backup kind of girl, I always had a boyfriend, but I always had at least one backup just in case we had to move him in quick. Right. You got someone on the side. Not anymore. Not today. Today, I'm emotionally, physically, and spiritually faithful. I'm also single, but like I'm single. I'm actually single. Right. Like I don't text people, especially other people's people, and say, hey, just wanted to say hi. No, I got no business saying hi to anyone who is with someone else, A, or B, even who's a dude practically. Like I just need to be right here with God. We're giving it to God, right? We're inviting God into all areas of our life. So I had that good orderly direction, and that woman took us through the book. And what we did was we read the first 164 pages of the book, and when it said to do something, we did it. That was it. Like, that's it. And that's what I do with the women that I sponsor. And I sponsor a ton of them. But we meet and we read this book, and when it says to do something, we do it. And so today I had the honor of doing a third step. Right. And so what we did was when we got to page 64, where we got to the third step prayer, we got down on our knees and we said, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Right. And we read that prayer, and then she said a little something, something. And then I said a little something, something, because what we do next is we launch on a course of vigorous action. And the thing is, we take the third step prayer together because we launch on that action and we do those steps together. We don't do this alone. You do not have to be alone. That is what sponsorship is about, man. Right? And so I make a decision every day to turn my life and my will over to the care of God as I understand her. And for me, my God is a lesbian cheerleader, which I don't believe it's this late, but like my God's a lesbian cheerleader, and that's kind of a whole story. But basically, I had a sponsor. She was super Christian. She told me I could have any conception of God that I wanted. I was still kind of half in, half out of AA. I was still skeptical. I wanted it more than anything, but I was terribly afraid that I couldn't do it and I would just disappoint you and you would look at me with that same look too. Like, I can't handle that. I cannot. And so when she said to me, okay, tell me about your higher power. I said, well, my higher power is a lesbian cheerleader. And she said, great, pray to her every morning and every night. I'm like, what? And now what I've come to see, right? So my higher power, she looks like Britney in the early 90s. My higher power is totally hot. She's obviously a lesbian. But she's a cheerleader, right? Like, she is on the sidelines with me. I'm on that bench, but she gets me ready for game day. She pumps me up when I need to practice. She makes sure I'm at practice every day, because if I'm going to be ready for game day, I need to practice. I need to practice gratitude. I need to practice prayer. I need to practice meditation, however haltingly, however imperfectly, however totally screwed up. Like, there are days that I meditate that I'm like legit one eye open, peeking at the clock because I can't wait to get done. But you know what? I do it. I bring it back to the breath. I try to get in touch with God. Breathe in peace, breathe out fear, right? Like, whatever it takes, I do. I practice. I try. And today, what I understand is all the characteristics that I have attributed to my higher power are characteristics that God sees in me. Because I am absolutely a cheerleader for AA. I absolutely, positively, I've got a bench load. I got a whole team of women that I work with. And we are a team. We are shoulder to shoulder. There is none of this better than, worse than, whatever. There are no pigeons shitting on me. Like, no, these are other women who have honored me with the privilege. Are you kidding me? Women didn't give me things. Women didn't leave me alone with things. And now Women come to me because they want what I have, because they know that I absolutely positively love them unconditionally and will give all of this away. I would take little Lauren. She is just fascinating me. I love little Lauren down there. I would take her, throw her in my basement, and throw down big books and pizza until she got it. I would give her half of my sobriety today if I thought it meant she would stay sober, right? That's not how it works. We launch on a course of vigorous action, and it's something that we have to do. We have to do ourselves, and thank God we do, because the only thing I have any control over is me. And so what I have to do, I'm going to tell you really quick about the rest of the steps, but you should get a sponsor, because your sponsor would teach you all about these steps. And if your sponsor doesn't know what the steps are, or if your sponsor doesn't work the steps, you might want to think about getting another sponsor. But that's totally on you, because, I don't have a corner on this market. AA doesn't have a corner on the sobriety market. Like, whatever you want to do, if it's working for you, then rock on. But I know for me, when I sit quietly, which I can do because of Alcoholics Anonymous, when I sit quietly in my home, I feel joy. I just feel joy in the act of being, because Alcoholics Anonymous and my higher power have convinced me. It's not a belief. It's not what I think. It is a conviction that I am enough. I no longer have to do more to be equal. I am enough just as I am. And there is enough of anything I could think that I want. And what am I even doing thinking about what I think I want anyway? God obviously knows what I need. So why don't I just stay out of that whole business, right? Like somehow I think I've got to tell God, oh God, I'm working on my selfishness. Oh God, I'm going to try to work on letting go. Like, God knows what I need to do, and God will provide whatever lessons I need to learn. All I have to do is say, God, I'm showing up. Let's see what happens. Look for the surprise, man, right? And so when step 4, I'm just going to tell you a couple little of my favorite tidbits about each of the steps. 4, right? Make a searching and fearless moral inventory. It's not that scary. You've been beating yourself up with it the whole time. It's not that big of a deal. Clearly, I was a dumpster fire. I was a little trashy. I'm a woman of dignity, honor, integrity. I'm amazing today. And I still mess up quite regularly. It doesn't matter. But it says there that resentment is the number 1 offender. And when we make our lists in the column in the book, we write down our resentments, right? But resentment's the number 1 offender. It's not the only one. And for me, and I find for a lot of women, when I got to, and maybe dudes too, I don't care about y'all nearly the degree that I did 25, 30 years ago. But for me, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I blamed myself for everything. I wasn't resentful at my boyfriend for cheating on me. I knew I deserved it because I was fat. I wasn't resentful at my parents for not loving me because I knew I never amounted to anything, so of course they didn't love me. I was wallowing in self-pity, shame, guilt, and remorse. And I couldn't, when I first got sober, understand how those things were resentments. I wasn't angry. I never got angry. I was with men who physically hit me, and I wouldn't get mad at them. I was incapable of being angry. And that, too, is part of trauma, outside issue, but there you go. And so for me, on my 4th step, and now in my 10th and 11th steps, I write down whenever I feel dis-ease, whenever I feel disease, whenever I feel uncomfortable. I need to write it down, because if my job is to fit myself to be of maximum service so that I can help anyone in the world, I need to be able to face anyone in the world. And so if I walk into, I'm going back to Megan with her hair. If I go into the meeting and Megan's in the meeting and her hair's looking fabulous, and in my head I'm thinking, look at her with her hair just showing off. I know she curled it before she came to AA. Who curls their hair before she goes to AA, right? That's about me. That's not about Megan curling her hair. If she wants to curl her hair, let her curl her hair. Let go, let God. That's a good one. But that's about me, because whenever I find a person, place, or thing unacceptable, it's a spiritual axiom that there's something wrong with me. I wish I could tell you that I found the time when my self-righteous anger was vindicated. I haven't. Because what I do is I say yes when I mean no, and I say no when I mean yes. And I don't know. I don't pause long enough to know how I feel about things. And so you'll say, can I get a ride to a meeting? And I'm like, sure. And then I'm like, why do I have to drive her? I don't have any gas money. I didn't want to pick her up, right? But so what I need to do is pause. Let me get back to you on that. And then I can think about, can I drive her really? Or am I being selfish? Da, da, da. And then sometimes, you know what I can say? No, I can't. I was incapable of saying no when I got sober, because I was afraid if I said no, you'd never want to see me again. If you asked me to lunch and I didn't feel like going to lunch just because I was in my sweatpants, I would literally get dressed and go to lunch, because I was afraid if I didn't, you'd be mad at me. if someone says, if I call up Blair and I'm like, dude, you want to go to lunch? And she's like, no, I'm in my sweatpants. I'm like, okay, love you. Talk to you tomorrow. I don't get mad at her. I don't think about it for 2 seconds. I'm over it. But somehow it's different with me. Self-centeredness, selfishness, that we have to smash that. We must, or it kills us, right? And so whenever I feel disease, I have to write it down. And so with Megan and her hair, right, then what it is, it's my fear, because it's always fear, right? And I'm afraid that I'm not going to get something I think I deserve, and I think I deserve a lot, or I'm going to lose something I think I have, right? And for me, especially now in my life, if I'm being brutally honest, I see all these young little girls at AA, and I'm not a young little girl in AA anymore. And sometimes I'm like, oh, remember when I could wear pants like that, and now I'm just like, nope. And so when I have those moments, which I do because I'm human, I write it out and I think, you're just afraid that you're getting old and that somehow when you're old, you're unattractive. And I know that to not be true, because I know that when God shines through me, I am fucking gorgeous, right? Because that's what God does. Sorry about the F-bomb. Don't tell my sponsor. I usually don't ever swear from the podium. Anyway, so that's my thing about 5. 6 and 7, really quick. I know I have like 1 minute. 6 and 7 is where we humbly ask God to remove the defects of character. We don't do it. We don't work on it. If you're working on a character defect, for the love of God, stop. We humbly ask God to remove them. And then what do? Turn our attention to another alcoholic. Because when I'm over here messing with Blair, or when I'm over here helping another alcoholic, God is in the trunk fixing it. God is taking it. And then what happens is 2 weeks later, I think to myself, I haven't even been freaking out about that. That doesn't even spool me up. And I'm like, how did that even happen? And I'm surprised every single time. 28 years later, when I finally let things go and give it to God, I am shocked when it goes well, right? Like, what is that? That's humanness. So anyway, humbly ask God to remove all our defects of character. And God will when it's time. And until then, God will protect me. Because if God had shown me 28 years ago the degree of my selfishness, the degree of my self-centeredness, the degree to which I could be mean and vindictive, the degree to which I can offer constructive criticism, all of that stuff, I would have run from Alcoholics Anonymous and I would be dead. But God didn't. And for a while, years 3 to 9, I was super self-righteous. I thought I knew this program and I had it, and you needed to do it my way. And that's okay, because God was there too. And every year I look back and I think, oh my God, I grew a lot. And next year, when I look back on right now, I'll think, oh my God, I grew a lot. And that's just what we do, And so I'll finish by saying, I didn't talk. I have 2 kids. They're 18 and 16. I didn't talk about anything. I don't know what I talked about, but I talked for a whole hour. So anyway, as a result of this program, I obviously have this life that is second to none. And it's not about the material stuff. I own this house. I bought my own house, right? I have a car. It's registered. It's insured. All of those things that before were way above my pay grade are like no-brainers today. I pay my bills. I show up. I sponsor. I am sponsored. I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister. I'm all those things that I'm a good ex-wife. My ex-husband, his wife had a BMW and I didn't set it on fire, right? Like, that is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Last month, my kid, my younger son, who's like 6 feet tall, turned 16. And my ex-husband and his wife came over so we could all have pizza for the kid, right? They brought the pizza. I made the cookies. Like, are you kidding me? Like, he plows my driveway. And that's not like a euphemism for anything creepy. He like really plows my driveway. Like, because he takes care of his kids. That's why he does it, right? He does it because he too is a man of responsibility in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he takes care of the mother of his children and those children. How amazing is that? How amazing is that, right? Anyway, so as a result of all of this, I no longer have to look to dudes or drugs or alcohol or pound cake or Oreos, right? I don't. Because what I do in the morning is when I get up, the very first thing that I do is I make my bed, because today I'm a woman of deliberateness. Today, I still don't make the best choices when it comes to my romantic partnerships, but they're my choices today, and I can live with them today. I'm actually really good with them today. And so today I make my bed, because I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of hangups and a lot of shame. And I will sit here all night long and tell you about how I was promiscuous and everything else if it's going to help one girl stay sober for one night, without a doubt. without a doubt. And after that, I brush my teeth, because that's a joy of sobriety too, a gift. I brush my teeth, and when I brush my teeth, I get down on my knees and I ask God. I do a 3rd and a 7th step, and I ask God, please help keep me sober today, and please show me how I can be of maximum service. Show me the surprise, man. I'm all in. I am all in. And then I do some reading, I do some writing, and I do some prayer, because the book tells me that prayer, meditation, and self-reflection, when taken together, form an unshakable foundation on which we can build our lives. I can't just do inventory. I can't just chat up my lesbian cheerleader. I have to also do meditation, and I do all 3 of those things today. And I do a written inventory that I share with other women. We share them via email. If other women want to share it, I'm more than happy to share it with you. Get with me or whatever. I don't know. That's all I got. I know you guys want to have questions, so I'm done talking. Thank you very much for letting me babble.